everybody having a good time. The country's almost back to normal before World War III. COVID was just so strange. We lost a lot of people during COVID, and most of them are still alive. Yeah. Before COVID, I would have told you that vaccines are the most important invention in human history. After COVID, I'm like, I don't think we went to the moon. I think Michelle Obama's got a dick. I think Pizzagate is real. I think there's direct energy weapons in Antarctica.
Every time Michelle told audiences to just be yourself, Megyn couldn't help but picture the offstage army of handlers, stylists, and PR consultants making sure every hair was in place and her earrings sparkled perfectly under the teleprompter. Lights. If relatable were an Olympic sport, Megyn joked, Michelle wouldn't even make it past the qualifiers. Then Megyn ripped apart one of the media's favorite myths that Michelle never wanted the spotlight. She called it the biggest scam in modern political theater. The whole reluctant public figure narrative was laughable when you stacked it next to best-selling books, blockbuster podcast deals, Netflix specials, and a global public speaking empire. Megyn compared it to someone claiming to hate attention, while skydiving into a press conference with a neon sign flashing. Look, me, the modesty act. Megyn wasn't buying it. It was pure marketing. She didn't stop there. Megyn drilled into how Michelle played both sides of every issue. One day, she was preaching unity and kindness. The next, she was taking subtle jabs at half the country with the polished tone of a disappointed principal. To Megyn, this wasn't courage, it was calculated manipulation. Michelle never truly took a stand. Megyn said she just floated with the safest political wind and acted like—
Speaking of victims of this awful world, you think of Michelle Obama and how terrible we've all been to her. This woman is a one-woman destitution derby. Every time we check in on her at her podcast, she is feeling sorry for herself.
Joe Rogan went after Michelle Obama with the same fired-up energy he reserves for rants about psychedelics or elk meat, laser-focused, animated, and genuinely baffled that no one else dared to call out the obvious. For years, the media treated Michelle like some divine figure descending from the clouds, clutching a protein shake in one hand and a memoir in the other. But Joe wasn't buying it. To him, she was nothing more than a glorified self-help brand, armed with a Netflix deal and the emotional depth of a motivational bumper sticker.
Salvador, who have already been deported, and not American citizens. The media has claimed are American citizens, but they're not. No American citizens. Anyway, it's just been so ridiculous. And the fact that she would try to parlay this into like, I'm so scared, but also super important. But also my daughters are brown, so they're also potential victims because everyone hates brown people unless they could identify them as an Obama.
He kicked things off by tearing into Michelle's perfectly crafted persona, polished, poised, always flashing that knowing grin like she was in on a secret the rest of the world wasn't cool enough to hear. Joe found it bizarre, almost comical. Here was someone who could breeze through major interviews, dodge every tough question, avoid controversy like a pro, and somehow still get crowned the Queen of Bravery. To Joe, it was all theater, a carefully choreographed act that made his skin crawl. He said watching Michelle was like watching someone play chess against themselves while the crowd cheered like it was the battle of the century.
Tim Dillon's video where he was saying that Michelle Obama should run for president. If she won, she could pull her out and China would just give up. I was wheezing. I couldn't breathe. Big Mike.
Big Mike.
And don't even get Joe started on the speeches. He joked that Michelle's speeches had all the thrill of a hotel room, iron smooth, predictable, and barely useful even when plugged in. Every word, he said, sounded like it had been sanitized by a squad of sensitivity readers, polished by a team of PR consultants, and triple-checked by a committee terrified of using a single word that wasn't uplifting. To Joe, her public persona wasn't bold or inspiring, it was corporate safe. So safe, he quipped. You could wrap fragile glassware in it and it wouldn't break.
Okay.
Playing the one
that's it. This is the one.
Or the first woman
We already
president.
have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a
I'm sorry, she's a what?
a transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty funny how she said it.
Okay, we all know.
Joe didn't hold back when it came to the ultimate irony. Michelle Obama painting herself as the face of struggle while living in multi-million-dollar mansions, flying private, and raking in royalty checks thicker than most people's mortgages. Joe made it clear He wasn't hating on success, he respected hustle. But what he couldn't stomach was when privilege dressed itself up in the costume of victimhood. In his words, Michelle didn't rise from the ashes. She was handed a lighter and told to warm her hands by a luxury fireplace. Her version of hardship, Joe joked, felt like an overacted after-school special, except the big tragedy was no Wi-Fi in the guest house, and the books. Oh, the books. Joe laughed, saying Michelle could fill entire volumes without actually saying anything. Yet the media would treat it like groundbreaking political scripture. Reading one of her books, he quipped, was like being trapped at brunch with someone who just discovered self-love and won't shut up about it. To Joe, her chapters could all be boiled down to feel good, drink water, and believe in yourself. Great advice if you're selling candles, not leading national conversations. He wrapped it all up with a brutal shot at the media's constant obsession over Michelle's outfits, workouts, and eyebrow angles. Joe said it wasn't admiration anymore. It was full-blown idolatry.
Boy in the mix.
I'm so glad I didn't have a boy.
Yeah.
Because he would have been a Barack Obama.
It's like baby Barack. It would have been amazing.
Ooh, no, I would have felt for him.
She just borrowed our boys.
Yes, I got plenty.
Wow.
Did you catch that? She's glad she didn't have a boy because he would have been a Barack Obama. And that's a hard pass for her.
Then Joe zeroed in on Michelle's infamous food crusade. He blasted how she turned school lunches into a nationwide experiment in misery where soggy broccoli, mystery greens, and sad little quinoa piles were paraded as the future of health. To Joe, it looked less like nutrition and more like a cafeteria hostage situation. He joked about kids staring down at their dull beige lunch trays with the same defeated look people have at jury duty. Meanwhile, Michelle smiled on TV, pretending America's youth were jazzed about carrot sticks. But Joe pointed out the real rebellion was in full swing lunchbox black markets, where fruit roll-ups were traded like cigarettes in a 1940s prison yard.
Happening to immigrants.
I mean, I travel in a 4-car motorcade. After all, I'm Michelle Obama. But she actually says this. And then she says, but, I worry for my girls because, not that much because they are sort of recognizable, but I'm worried about them.
So it's not the fear for myself anymore. I drive around in a 4-car motorcade with a police escort. I'm Michelle Obama. I do still worry about my daughters in the world, even though they are somewhat recognized.
They weren't critiquing a public figure, they were watching the media try to canonize one. And that, Joe argued, was the real problem. Michelle Obama wasn't just respected, she was untouchable. When someone is wrapped in that many layers of praise and protection, it usually means what's inside can't survive on its own. Then Megyn Kelly entered the conversation, like a courtroom veteran with a case so airtight the jury would be checking their watches by lunchtime. Megyn wasn't there for laughs. She came armed with receipts, sharp observations, and a smile that cut like a scalpel. To Megyn, Michelle wasn't some spontaneous icon, she was the high priestess of political branding. Every inch of her public persona was engineered, market-tested, and sold to America like the latest luxury skincare line. The realness was rehearsed, the relatable image was corporate packaging. Megyn zeroed in on the biggest joke of all, Michelle's endless campaign to seem like one of us. Relatable, Megyn scoffed. This was someone who jetted off to private islands, lived in sprawling multi-million-dollar estates, and probably logged more hours in makeup chairs than Hollywood A-listers. The everyday woman act, Megyn argued, was just the tan act. And a flimsy one at that, once you scratched beneath the surface.
Joan Rivers said that Michelle Obama was a man before she died.
Was that a joke? I thought it was a joke.
I thought it was a joke too, but the way she said it wasn't like jokey. She was like, oh, come on, everybody knows Michelle Obama's the man. Like, remember that?
Yeah, like, would Big Mike kill you for that?
Well, I think she died because she had 1,000 plastic surgeries. But
Michelle, she should change her name to Misery Obama. That's really what I think of when Misery Obama never has a positive word to say. Never. Not about children, not about family, certainly not about her husband.
Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly just obliterated Michelle Obama in a no-holds-barred takedown, shredding through her polished image with ruthless honesty and savage humor. From her scripted, relatable moments to the recycled motivational sound bites, they pulled back the curtain on the media's most protected first lady. Nothing was off limits as they dismantled the myth of Michelle's perfection, exposing her as more brand than substance. Brutal, hilarious, and unapologetically raw. This roast left no spotlight safe and no illusion standing.
Did she die?
2014.
Okay, so it was 2014. So it was 2014 that she did that. Where she in 2014. So it had to be before 2014 because she was dead in 2014. So 2014 or before, she said Michelle Obama is a man. So this is like 10 years.
Have you ever
ago.
heard that before her?
I never heard it. No,
I didn't
even hear her say that until years later.
Then Megyn took aim at Michelle's so-called legacy as First Lady, asking the blunt question: what did she really accomplish? Sure, there were fitness challenges, healthy eating campaigns, and a flurry of hashtags, but Megyn pointed out none of it left a lasting impact. The school lunch rules were rolled back, the workout initiatives faded into obscurity, and the famous speeches. Megyn called them emotional op-eds, with all the intellectual depth of a Pinterest quote board. She openly mocked how the media crowned Michelle a philosopher queen, while her public wisdom rarely went deeper than coffee mug slogans. You're enough. Stay strong. Love wins. Megyn wasn't against the feel-good vibes, but she was baffled at how these basic affirmations were treated like life-altering revelations. If Michelle was considered a profound thought leader, Megyn joked, the bar for insight had been set so low, it was now a tripping hazard. And then came the cultural pandering. Megyn blasted Michelle for conveniently playing the identity card when it worked in her favor, only to retreat behind vague, crowd-pleasing platitudes anytime a tough or controversial issue surfaced. Michelle had mastered the art of portraying herself as both a fearless warrior and a delicate victim, an exhausting, contradictory performance Megyn found disingenuous and flat-out manipulative.
So ridiculous. And the fact that she would try to parlay this into like, I'm so scared, but also super important, but also my daughters are brown, so they're also potential victims because everyone hates brown people, unless they could identify them as an Obama, in which case we'd be fine because everyone loves us. But as you can watch the wheels calculate in a way that just confirms everything you believed about this.
Joe didn't hold back. He joked that if anything felt faker than a reality show, it was Michelle Obama's Instagram. But Megyn Kelly wasn't done either. She came back sharper, more ruthless, and laser-focused on dismantling the biggest fantasy of all, the myth of Michelle as a political outsider. Megyn ripped through that narrative like it was a tired fairy tale long past its expiration date. Outsider, please. Michelle had spent over a decade sitting at the epicenter of power, married to a two-term president, dining with global elites, cutting deals with billion-dollar corporations, and running a media empire. And yet, every now and then, Michelle would emerge to speak truth to power, despite being the power. Megyn didn't just find the contradiction amusing. She found it infuriating. Michelle had perfected the ultimate performance, playing the role of the humble outsider while fully living as an insider. And millions bought into it without a second thought. Megyn closed with a brutal observation. Michelle never really wanted to lead, she wanted to be worshipped. She didn't challenge the system, she branded herself inside it. While the cameras flashed, the crowds cheered, and the bestsellers piled up, the country got nothing back. No bold stances, no hard truths, just a perfectly packaged persona that, both Joe and Megyn agreed, was the real roast. Not of Michelle the individual, but of Michelle the untouchable, mass-marketed myth. The symbol America was sold, while the substance quietly vanished behind the curtain. And according to them, they were just getting started.
Misery Obama does not want to run for office. Misery just wants to sit and talk about how miserable she is. And honestly, when you see the full parody tomorrow, you'll laugh. Like I started bursting out laughing a couple times because it seems impossible. Like it seems like I'm being too mean. But then we've interspliced the actual Michelle Obama saying these exact things. Like we didn't have to make it up.
Megyn wrapped her takedown with a simple point. Real leadership doesn't need theatrics, it demands truth. And truth, she argued, was the one thing Michelle Obama expertly avoided. Choosing polished image control over honest conviction. Then came the final blow. Megyn torched the Michelle-obsessed media bubble. Every TV appearance, every podcast soundbite, every carefully staged photo shoot was treated like a royal coronation. But beneath the glitz and glamour, Megyn didn't see leadership, she saw a marketing machine in overdrive. Michelle didn't lead, she floated, she curated, she posed. And somehow, the public mistook that for power. This wasn't a personal attack, it was a cold, clinical dissection. To Megyn, Michelle Obama wasn't a symbol of progress, she was a symbol of performance. And with her signature sharpness and unapologetic clarity, Megyn made sure to rip the mask off that illusion. The roast didn't end there. Together, Joe and Megyn peeled back the glossy, media-crafted layers and exposed the uncomfortable truth underneath. And if this segment proved anything, it was just the beginning.
Will not run for president.
Yeah, I've heard you say I think Michelle should run.
She could win. She could win, I think. I think if she ran, she could win.
Do you ever run for office?
No.
I have to ask him.
No.
No kind of office.
No.
I don't think she wants that, though.
No,
I don't think she wants that in her life. The bull that they dealt with over the 8 years when he was president.
Because I've got these two young people at home. Being the kids, the daughters of a president, just think about it. Not so easy.
That job for anybody that really good at it.
Yeah, I trust the person who doesn't want the job more than the person who wants the job.
It's not something that I'm interested in or would ever do. Ever.
Joe Rogan jumped back in like a guy who just remembered the juiciest part of the story, and he wasn't about to leave it out. The Michelle Obama takedown wasn't finished. For Joe, it wasn't just the polished branding that bugged him, it was how effortlessly people swallowed it whole. The blind worship, the automatic applause, the total refusal to question a single word she said. To Joe, it felt like watching people line up to buy overpriced tap water just because a celebrity's face was slapped on the bottle. He riffed on the absurdity of Michelle being praised as some political oracle, while skillfully dodging any real, hard-hitting conversations. She was always front and center for the photo shoots, the soft-focused docuseries, the trendy podcasts, but mysteriously absent when it came to actual decisions that required a backbone. Joe compared it to showing up to a UFC championship with a yoga mat and still expecting to walk away with a title belt. Then came her endless sermons on hope and unity. Joe mocked them as nothing more than motivational wallpaper, pleasant on the surface, but completely hollow once you looked closer. He pointed out how Michelle could speak in 5-minute bursts of poetic fluff, say absolutely nothing of substance, and still receive standing ovations like she'd solved world peace. And Joe wasn't letting her social media empire slide either. He called out the army of curated Instagram posts, the perfectly staged candid family moments, and the constant feed of filtered affirmations. Michelle wasn't America's relatable best friend, she was playing the role of a self-help guru with a glam squad. Joe laughed at the manufactured authenticity, where even the so-called real moments looked like they came straight out of a Vogue shoot.